I don't know if there's a team that I can recall in recent memory that has found more ways to win than the Kansas City Chiefs had. They do not rely solely on Patrick Mahomes. They have become the New England Patriots of this generation.
Half of the world literally hates the Kansas City Chiefs with so much passion. To me, it feels just like absolute bitter jealousy. Nick Sirianni, how would you describe him in a nutshell?
Internally, though, he's loved.
I still don't think they're good enough to win the Super Bowl when they played the Eagles. Here we go. We are here. We have the matchup. We have the game. It's all on talkSPORT. And we're going to be out in New Orleans the entire week with Will Gavin. Will Gavin is not here right now, but we have a guy that we haven't seen him on the rundown in a couple months. We were honored to have back Jay Lawrence. And Jay, there's no time to waste. We spent weeks and weeks building this up. Who's going to be in the Super Bowl? Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens. No. It is the Kansas City Chiefs, the team that the whole world loves, the world's favorite team, the Kansas City Chiefs, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, and the Philadelphia Eagles. Jay, this is a matchup perfectly set up for the city of New Orleans in the Superdome, man.
Do you know what? And I'll be completely honest with you, Brian. This time last week, if you asked me which matchup I wanted, it was not this matchup. Even on Sunday.
You wanted Jaden Daniels?
I wanted to have the Buffalo Bills in New Orleans, but this is, in fact, the matchup that we all deserve
This is a fantastic Super Bowl when you have Jalen Hurts versus Pat. We're going to get into all this. We have Jeff Reinebold coming up, who's going to call the game on talkSPORT. We have Dave Spadaro, who's the Eagles insider for the Philadelphia Eagles. So much to get into. But I look at this, and you got Jalen Hurts, who needs that Super Bowl, who came so close just a few years ago, Jay, and Patrick Mahomes. You have Travis Kelce. You have Steve Spagnuolo. You have Andy Reid, Nick Sirianni. The storylines, we're going to have all this covered at talksport.com. I agree with you. I wanted the Buffalo Bills, and I wanted Jaden Daniels and the rookie quarterback. But these are two helmets clashing. This is a heck of a Super Bowl matchup.
And do you know what really helped, I think, Brian, as well? Do you know what really helped? Is that in those two games, those two championship games, my opinion, the two better teams won. This isn't a situation where we're looking back on that game and we're thinking, do you know what, actually, the Washington Commanders, they really, if it wasn't for this thing or that fumble, they could be there. No, the Philadelphia Eagles, they deserve to be there. They showed they deserve to be there in that game. And if they can put up a performance like they showed against the Washington Commanders, this could be a game. This could be a really good game. And the Kansas City Chiefs as well, against the Buffalo Bills. Tighter game, obviously, and it could have gone either way at points there. But Patrick Mahomes, he just does what Patrick Mahomes does, essentially, and that is win. So we've got a repeat of the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And you know that the Chiefs fans, obviously, all they're talking about is the three-peat. They want the three-peat. But the Eagles fans is quite different. They want revenge, Brian. This is a revenge game for the Eagles, Brian.
Let's get into the revenge. And I want to, we talk about Mahomes, we talk about Andy Reid, but a lot of this is Travis Kelce and the Taylor Swift thing. Let's hear from Travis Kelce, because when I listen to this, I hear the emotion and the passion and somebody for all the outside noise and all the Swifties. He wants one thing. He wants to be the first team, the first player in NFL history to win 3 straight Super Bowls.
Never satisfied, baby. When you play in front of Arrowhead Stadium like this, every single AFC championship, you kidding me? Kansas City! Hey, before you guys get out of here, just do a little dance, make a little love. Yeah, get down tonight.
Thank you, Travis Patrick.
Jay, hold on. What is? Nobody knows that song anymore. Number one, you got Taylor Swift sitting there. He's singing a song from like 1975. It's like kind of like a funk song. Travis Kelce, the ultimate party animal in New Orleans. But you mentioned revenge. You mentioned revenge for the Eagles and Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. They have Saquon Barkley now. They have Vic Fangio now. And I'm looking at two things. I'm looking at revenge 100% for Eagles fans. And the fact that, it now seems like half of the world literally hates the Kansas City Chiefs with so much passion. They're convinced that the NFL wanted the Chiefs back. They're convinced that the refs are throwing flags for the Chiefs, not making the calls against Mahomes. This is a bitter rematch for the Eagles and for all these NFL fans who've decided that the Chiefs are the new evil empire.
And that's really, intensified, as you say, I think, within the last couple of weeks as well, with those refs calls. And I'm not somebody that's sitting here saying, oh, it's all, the refs are trying to get the Chiefs
did
back
Roger
there.
Goodell have to get Taylor Swift back in the Super Bowl? No.
I'm not coming at that. Were there some dodgy calls? There were some dodgy calls. Could you say that Josh Allen actually did get that first down? Yes, you could say that. It's happened now. The Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. This is a revenge game. And do you know what? For the Philadelphia Eagles, though, for the Philadelphia Eagles, as you say, this is a completely different team.
Yeah.
Yes, you've got some of the same key members there, but you have Saquon Barkley, who I'm sure we're going to speak about a little bit later on. I feel like we need to speak about Saquon Barkley. But you've also got some incredible... The Philadelphia Eagles have had an incredible few months in the regard... They got Zach Bourne from the New Orleans Saints, who has been nominated for Defensive Player of the Year. This is a guy who was barely making special teams plays, for the New Orleans Saints, and he comes onto the Eagles, and he is phenomenal. They've got Cooper DeJean, who is the potential Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's a nominee anyway, as you say. Vic Fangio, he's come in as well, who's the potential Assistant Coach of the Year. The Eagles have been phenomenal this year, and I really think that they've shown their worth as well over the last few weeks. But you're right, the Kansas City Chiefs, they are hated, and they are hated because they are successful. They are not playing the same brand of football as they were a few years ago either. Let's remember, a few years ago, this was high-flying Kansas City Chiefs, spreading the ball about, almost, playing like Patrick Mahomes was when he was with Cliff Kingsbury at Texas Tech, completely different style of play now because they haven't got the same sorts of players, the same figures, So they're playing differently. That combined with the fact that success breeds contempt, that's what happens. It's just what happens.
I love when you get back on the show because all we do is agree. And then
I need to bring up something we disagree about.
We'll get to that later. I wrote a column at talkSPORT this week that the hatred for me, and there have been some missed calls, but Jay, it's jealousy. There's no way around it. This isn't, for me, the New England Patriots evil empire, and there was some cheating with the Patriots, and they had the dark arts, which all Premier League fans are obviously familiar with now with Arsenal. But the New England Patriots with Bill Belichick, they had Deflategate. I mean, you actually had Tom Brady suspended at one point and lawsuits and all these things. The Chiefs have, other than maybe some controversial comments to some people from their field goal kicker, the Chiefs haven't had that much controversy. They just win. We spent all season on this show, on talkSPORT Rundown, with you and with Will and with Phoebe, saying that at one point this was the luckiest team in NFL history. I, at one point, said something crazy like, maybe Travis Kelce isn't good at football anymore, and they just keep winning. And I just feel like, people are tired of them, but this whole thing that there is this conspiracy that Roger Goodell is directing the refs, and the refs are trying to get the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. For what? There's no proof of that, and I completely agree with you. To me, it feels just like absolute bitter jealousy, which you get a lot in 2025 when it's really easy to go on social media and just type out a bunch of hate. That's kind of where the world is now. It's not the Chiefs' fault, Jay, that they've adapted, they've evolved, and they're just a really, really good historical football team.
Do you know what I want your opinion on, though? What I want your opinion on. I woke up on Monday morning, I had a few texts on my phone from friends who basically said that they are not bothered about watching the Super Bowl.
Like they're boycotting it, right? Or they're just not doing it.
They are not fussed about it. They wanted the other teams to win. They do not want a repeat of the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They said they might not even watch it.
So I will say to that, 123 million people or so watched the last Super Bowl just a year ago. Do you know why that number is so important, Jay? Because the last time that many people in the United States of America, which the last I heard is a pretty big country, a pretty powerful country, the last time that many people watched an event on television at the same time was the 1969 moon landing. The 1969 moon landing. That is how big the Super Bowl is. Yeah. So, like 10,000 people might not watch it. The Super Bowl and Roger Goodell in the NFL, then they make $15 billion a year. They will be just fine. This whole idea that you can have this little boycott. Like, go ahead. Have your little Twitter boycott and watch whatever show you're going to watch on Sunday night. But I guarantee you, they will tune in, they will check, and guess who's at halftime? Kendrick Lamar. Are they going to miss Kendrick Lamar in New Orleans in the Superdome? This is the biggest show in the world. Give me a break. They're gonna boycott it 2 weeks before, and they will have their butts in their couch eating potato chips, drinking beer, watching the big game, because that's what people in America do, and that's a great thing.
Do you know what? The Super Bowl halftime show, I want to mention the Super Bowl halftime show really briefly because I'm a big Kendrick Lamar fan. I think he's going to be, in my mind, he's one of the most anticipated halftime performers in years. He's bringing out SZA with him as well. And I want to say, SZA, well, this is, you're showing your age, Brian. But I want to point out, let's go back to the first NFL ever rundown.
Yes.
Where Brian
Are you setting me up? What is going on here? I don't know what's going on here.
Brian T. Smith said...
Oh, God, this is going to be bad.
We haven't got footage,
No,
but I want to remind you of how you were not up for Kendrick Lamar being the
I was not. I was not, and that is the truth, and I will be... He can wow me. He can impress me. I would have had somebody with a maybe, you know what? Maybe he'll be cool and he'll bring out the Preservation Hall jazz band behind him. That would be incredible.
Lil Wayne as well, you know, New Orleans Lil Wayne.
I need some jazz in there with Kendrick Lamar. Look, Jay, there's so much to get into. And coming up next, we have Jeff Reinbold who's going to be calling the game with Will Gavin and Greg Rosenthal from NFL Network on talkSPORT. We're going to be out there the entire week. You're going to have hurricanes and hand grenades on Bourbon Street. We're going to have a blast. We will have it all coming back on talkSPORT. And up next on the program, we are honored to have Jeff Reinbold. He is calling the game with Will Gavin and Greg Rosenthal for talkSPORT. Jay, you'll be out there. We'll be out there with Jeff. Jeff, it's good to have you on the show, man. How's it going?
It's good to be back in London, even though by remote. It's awesome, man. We are here in Hawaii. It is 5:45 in the morning, and everybody's moving. So let's go.
Let's go and let's get into this. So the matchup, Jeff, that everyone is looking at is Patrick Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts. And obviously, you know the league, you know the sport. You're going to be calling this for talkSPORT. What do you see in this matchup? Because Jalen Hurts has kind of been hampered by injuries. He mentioned, kind of joked after the NFC Championship that he got out of the straitjacket. Patrick Mahomes is a new face of the NFL. But Patrick Mahomes isn't throwing for 350, 400 yards anymore. To me, it seems like we can talk about everything else, but the quarterback matchup and who wins that matchup will probably define the Super Bowl.
I think you're exactly correct. You know, the quarterback is the most difficult position to play in professional sport. And, you know, it is absolutely the key every matchup. And the bigger the game, the bigger the pressure on the quarterbacks. For Jalen Hurts, this is a chance at redemption. He's been to the Super Bowl, was not able to win it. Patrick Mahomes beat him last time on the last second drive. And he needs to be able to play well. He has to be efficient throwing the football. And again, Saquon Barkley is the key to the Eagles offense. But if you're Jalen Hurts, you're going to need to make plays both with your feet and with your arm if they're going to beat a really good Kansas City team and Patrick Mahomes.
I mean, look, Jeff, it feels like we need to talk about the three-peat, don't we, really? The Kansas City Chiefs, they have the opportunity to win 3 times in a row. Does this sort of feel like destiny to you?
Well, I don't know, Jay. One thing about it is never been done. You know, they've played the Super Bowl now for almost 60 years, and no team has ever been able to go back. There have been teams that have gone back 3 times, but there's never been a team that's won 3 straight. And so a three-peat would be a crowning jewel in Kansas City. And I think, you know, I don't know if there's a team that I can recall in recent memory that has found more ways to win than the Kansas City Chiefs had. They do not rely solely on Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce or the run game. They are a team that finds a way to win, and their defense has probably been the more outstanding unit of the two.
Jeff, we can go through the players and the quarterbacks and Travis Kelce and all these things, maybe some Taylor Swift. But for me, I look at the Chiefs and I look at I look at what is a dynasty and maybe the first ever three-peat in NFL history, and I think of one name, Andy Reid. What Andy Reid has been able to do with this team, he was a very good coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. He made the Super Bowl and fell short. But Andy Reid has truly put his stamp on this team. How has he been able to do this and have this high level of historic success by very much remaining true to who he is as a person, as a leader, as a family man, and as a head coach? That's not easy to do in the NFL.
Well, that's a great observation. You know, Andy Reid is Andy Reid, and, you know, he's very comfortable in his own skin. When you look at high-level professional sports, you know, we're talking about alpha males. We're talking about big egos. We're talking about guys that, love to be loved, all of that. But if you look at Andy Reid, one of the defining things about his coaching style is that he deflects praise. He shares all of the accolades. He loves to spread the love, if you want to use the players' vernacular. And I think that's really important in how he's been able to get that team to play so well. Here's the thing about when you're winning championships, it's tougher to go back because everybody wants to take a bow. Everybody wants to write a book. Everybody wants to be the reason why. And, he's been able to figure out the team psychology that everybody is now putting the Chiefs before themselves. And think about this. You mentioned the Taylor Swift phenomenon. Imagine what it's like for other wives in that Kansas City Chief family when all of a sudden here comes Taylor Swift and all the cameras go to her and all the attention goes to her. Well, the wives have egos too. They want their husband to be the reason. And so all of those things are some of the divisive things that can happen as you start to win championships. And somehow Andy, inside of his own personality, has been able to mitigate that and really create a, kind of a three musketeers, one for all and all for one mentality in Kansas City.
You know what's interesting, actually? I want to just pick up on something you said a moment ago, Jeff, there as well. I do see similarities between the Kansas City Chiefs, a dynasty or very near a dynasty, if not, and another team, a head coach who doesn't, go out for the limelight, superstar quarterback, a selection of players that you wouldn't necessarily say are the number one wide receiver, for example, or the best running back in the league. The quarterback just does it with the players that he's got. You can probably see where I'm going here. It does ring of the New England Patriots a little bit, doesn't it?
It is, and I think they have become the New England Patriots of this generation. In previous years when the Patriots were doing their thing, that was the evil empire. That was the team that you loved to hate. Everybody wanted to see them fall off their pedestal. And now that Kansas City, and this is really a unique phenomenon, a great point, Jay, Kansas City's a small market team from the middle of the United States. It's not New York. It's not LA. It's not Dallas. It's not, it's not Miami. It's not Flash and Dash. It's just Kansas City. And they have elevated that brand to the point where now everybody wants to see them crumble. And that's a phenomenon that's not unlike what we saw with Man U during the glory years, in the Premiership. So I think it's really interesting, and they kind of like that. I think you hear Travis Kelce talk in particular, and Mahomes will do the same. They kind of like being the guy that everybody has their gun pointed to, and as long as you can find your motivation in that, I think it's good for their football team.
Jeff, we're going to get into the Super Bowl coverage and doing all this with Will and the Superdome in a second. But, I also, let's go inside the trenches really quick, some inside football, because this is what you are really good at. I look at this Philadelphia Eagles defensive line, Jalen Carter, the pressure they were to bring against the Los Angeles Rams, the pressure they were to bring in the NFC Championship. And that, to me, is one of the Eagles' biggest strengths against a Kansas City Chiefs offensive line that is good, but not the best in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes has had a lot of pressure this year, and he's constantly had to throw the ball. He's leaning around. He's doing all these Mahomes things. How do the Chiefs handle that Philadelphia Eagles defensive line, Jalen Carter, because they can wreck a game and potentially take over the Super Bowl in the Superdome in New Orleans?
I think that's really good observation. You look at football, and in its very essence, you win the games up front. Now, obviously, everybody loves the great long passes and the great acrobatic catches and all of that. But really, the game is 60 minutes of a battle of big guys in the trenches. When you look at these two teams, you have to give Philadelphia the edge in that area because Jalen Carter and that crew, they can wreck your day. Now, when you look at Kansas City, Tooney, who's an all-pro guard, has had to move to tackle. Yeah. That's an incredibly difficult thing to do. Your footwork is all different. You're playing out in space where you're not used to playing. Their right tackle has been a revolving door all year. I think for Kansas City to be able to mitigate the pass rush of the Eagles, Andy's going to have to stay ahead of it on the chains. They have to be successful on first down. They can't get into long down and distance situations, 2nd and 10, 3rd and 6 or more, where that front can just pin its ears back and come after Mahomes. I think the chess match between Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator of the Eagles, who's one of the most respected veteran defensive coordinators in the league, and Andy Reid, who's the greatest play designer of our generation, I think that is going to be a really fun thing to break down for the fans on talkSPORT.
Well, yeah, talkSPORT is going to be there. It's going to be at the Super Bowl the week before. You're going to be able to see so much coverage on talkSPORT End Zone, on talkSPORT. And on the day itself, Jeff Reinbold, you're going to be covering it with us as well. We can't let you go without a prediction.
You know, I love this game because there's so many great matchups that I think we're going to have. You know, Steve Spagnuolo and Vic Fangio, we talked about the guys up front, the quarterbacks, what receiver is going to step up and make a play. I just really think that when you look at this game, and you cannot be the champ until you knock out the champ. And so right now I'm going to say Kansas City, because as long as that guy that's wearing number 15 has the ball in his hands, the Kansas City Chiefs always have a chance.
Jeff, Chiefs, let's just do this real quick. Chiefs get the three-peat. That's what you're saying. Are you going to hit Bourbon, like New Orleans, which is the best part, everyone knows, the best party city in the United States of America, one of the best party cities in the world. That is a fact. What is New Orleans, what is the French Quarter going to be like if the Chiefs are the first team in NFL history to have a three-peat and talkSPORT is covering it?
Well, if they get a three-peat, because I worked in Kansas City, I have friends there, I will be on Bourbon and I will be wearing red, and my plane leaves at 7 o'clock the next morning, and I might have a hurricane in my hand when I get on the plane.
There we go.
Hurricanes on Jeff. Heard it here. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, fellas, my pleasure. We'll see you from New Orleans.
All right, we'll see you in New Orleans, man. Thanks a lot. All right, we will be back on talkSPORT with more Super Bowl coverage in a second. All right, we have gotten into the Kansas City Chiefs with Jeff Reinbold, and now we have to do the other side of the coin, the team that just keeps winning and winning in the Super Bowl. And I'm not going to give away my prediction yet, but yeah, I'm leaning toward this team. Pleased to have in Dave Spadaro. He covers the Eagles. He is with the Eagles all of the time. Dave, thank you so much for joining us. I know you are really, really busy right now. How's it going, man?
Doing great. I mean, it's actually busy. There's a bit of a calm this week as a team prepares all the logistics of the trip. I mean, it's an enormously complicated process. So for these couple of days, it's actually kind of chill. You got me at a good time.
I want to know what the atmosphere has been like. I want to know how exactly Philadelphia fans are feeling right now, because it's almost felt, dare I say it, too easy this year.
Are you familiar with Philadelphia Eagles fans? All right, let me ask you that first.
I don't know if Jay's ever been to Philly. There's nothing easy in
I'm
Philly.
I'm not saying the whole thing's easy.
Nick Sirianni was fired after week 4. You know all about this, right? He shaved his head. The season was off the rails, and now they're in the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, look, everybody has, look, a year ago, I'll roll it back to them. Eagles losing the playoffs to Tampa Bay, and everybody's going, what is happening here? Collapse. And the Eagles put together a new coaching staff. They rebuilt the roster. Nick Sirianni survived an early season struggle where the Eagles were 2-2 and the fans wanted him out of here. But this team has just come together so beautifully. And I've been here for 30 years, and this will be my 4th Super Bowl. It is a team that really has all of the components in place. And even when they've had piece A not playing up to par, piece B picks it up, and they've been able to win as a team. They played really good, fit football. They are an extremely complementary team in every respect, and they have put it together in the playoffs, particularly on Sunday against the Commanders. So right now, the town is taking a deep collective breath, ready to exhale all of that passion when Super Bowl week begins on Sunday and then rolling right through the following Sunday.
Dave, I'm gonna say what I think, and you can tell me whether I'm absolutely stupid or maybe onto something. But I've been to Philly a lot. I have a soft spot for Philly. I love Philly. I've covered the World Series there, with Bryce Harper and the Houston Astros, who you guys aren't very big fans of. I've covered Eagles games there. I've covered the 76ers games there. I've been to concerts there. I saw Bruce Springsteen and Pearl Jam, on and on. I love Philly, but one of my pet theories is nothing can shake you in Philly. If you play for the Eagles, you deal with the Eagles fan base. You were already in the Super Bowl. So people want to talk about pressure in the Super Bowl and how do they handle it. Am I stupid? I mean, this team has already had more pressure than anything in the world that you could deal with, because everything you just mentioned, I feel like they are going to be ready for whatever happens in New Orleans as long as nobody breaks curfew and gets arrested.
For doing appreciating the grit and the grime of this city. And it is an incredible city that has an enormous amount of culture, food, sports is fantastic and a huge part of things. When you play in Philly or you coach in Philly, you better be prepared for the nonstop scrutiny, torrent of attention, sometimes over the top. Like the Eagles fans go one way or the other way, and it's really very difficult to find a middle ground. So this Eagles team has been toughened. I mean, first of all, there's 14 of the 22 starters that will play in Super Bowl 59 were on the team 2 years ago. So they understand the road they've taken and what's ahead of them. And then number two, when you mix in a season where you go from 10-1 and lose 5 of your last 6 games, get blown out in the playoff game, you understand how the fans can turn and the media can turn on you. And so again, you have to have that thick skin. And what the Eagles have here, they've built such a great culture. Look, I mean, all respect to Kansas City. Their culture, their winning tradition, what they've put together is a true dynasty. And the Eagles are just a tick behind. For example, the football team since 2021 has been to 8 NFC championship games. Since 2004, since 2001, since 2004, this will be the 4th Super Bowl. Like Jeffrey Lurie, the owner, has put together something really, really special. Only one Lombardi trophy at this point. But the Eagles know how to get there and know what it takes to win the game. And so you're right. When you play in Philly and you can handle the intensity of the city, I think at the end of the day, it makes you better. And I think this team is really well positioned to go into the Super Bowl environment, which is a crazy environment, infused by the mayhem of New Orleans, and ignore all the noise. The Eagles are there to win the game, and they realize who they're playing, and they recognize how you climb to the top. You got to beat the champ, and the champ ain't going down easily. The Kansas City Chiefs are not going to beat themselves. And you will not hear anybody from the Eagles complain and moan about the referees and all the calls. That's such a bunch of crap. And if you go in thinking that, even a little bit, you've already been defeated. So I really feel we're up for an epic game. And as is the case in football, may the best team that day win the game. And I think the Eagles are a mature, experienced, energetic with some really good young players. They've got star power. And, they've just turned it around. They've won 15 of their last 16 games. They're not going to New Orleans expecting to lose.
Well, we're talking about players that have had thick skin by playing in Philadelphia. One player that hasn't had to deal with that is Saquon Barkley. He's come in this season. There's been no reason for anybody to be critical of him this season. Absolutely phenomenal for the Philadelphia Eagles this year. And we're not even getting into the other additions that the Eagles, brought in summer that have also been great. Saquon Barkley, tell us a little bit about the man. Tell us a little bit about the guy who's going to be celebrating his birthday.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
At the Superdome.
He's going to win the Super Bowl MVP, win the Super Bowl, and have his birthday on the same day. That's NFL history.
Also, I believe it is also Cooper DeJean's birthday, but he's only 15 years old.
For the Eagles.
Saquon Barkley, first of all, incredible guy. He just gets it. There are people who you just gravitate toward because they're really very likable. They know their place. He came to Philadelphia for a variety of reasons, one of which closer to home, where his family lives. The money was going to be there. He's got a lot of pieces around him here to have success. Took so much time And remember, the first public practice, the Eagles had a public practice at Lincoln Financial Field, 55,000 people coming out to watch a practice where they don't tackle. And Saquon, I do the emceeing and I'm like announcing on the field, and we do like a little video board show after the game. And I wanted to interview Saquon, and he refused to do it. He didn't want to put himself in front of the team. Okay, so that's the kind of guy he is. He's worked really hard to integrate himself in the locker room with all of his teammates so that they would like him. And then working his effort and the meticulous nature of getting himself better and better and better. And I remember talking to the running backs coach, Jamal Singleton, prior to the season, and like, what can you do to make Saquon Barkley a better running back? And it's all about like squaring your shoulders down the field, having better vision so that you can see anything. So you're not going a little slightly ajar and your vision's cut off a little bit. So what have we seen? We've seen early in the season on a 4th down play, Saquon Barkley in week 2 dropped a pass right in his hands. Eagles end up giving up possession of the football. The Atlanta Falcons drive down the field, win the game. Saquon stands up in the locker room and takes accountability, which sounds like every athlete would do that, but they don't. And Saquon did it, further endearing himself to his team. And then from that point on, it was like every game, it feels like you're on the edge of your seat every time he gets the football. Every team comes in trying to stop him, scheming to stop him. And for the most part, like, you know, Washington did a really good job, except on obviously the first carry. The second carry, he scored a touchdown and a couple of other carries. But like for the most part, Washington gave him 118 yards. He had a 60-yard run in there. So they did a pretty good job. But he's such a big play running back, the likes of which we have never seen, that it has just been a remarkable, incredible season. He's an unbelievable player with power, speed, vision, the footwork, the drive, and he's incredibly likable and a wonderful teammate. Like he's if you were to make from clay the perfect athlete, person, guy, teammate, you know, dad, it's honestly Saquon Barkley. Like it, and so he's just and bringing him into the Eagles changed the entire mood of the locker room. The Eagles players were like, yeah, this front office is going to go for it. They're bringing in a star, and look what he's done. It's been remarkable having Saquon here. He's really been the key piece to the puzzle offensively.
Dave, there's one more I want to get into. This has been great stuff. Really, really great insight. I wanted to have you on, and now I know why I wanted to have you on. But there's another guy. We talked about Jalen Carter in the defense previously with Jeff Reinbold. But I want to ask you about. I'm a little mystified. I find Jalen Hurts kind of like this super cool, mysterious, his personality, the way he answers questions, he plays through injury, he's got a heart of a champion. He fell so short in the Super Bowl a few years ago. Writing a story about talkSPORT, and I'm like, oh yeah, Jalen Hurts is a story, as you know, where on his iPhone lock screen, he had the photo of where he lost the Super Bowl to the Chiefs a few years ago. That's how driven he is. You're around Jalen Hurts all the time. What is he like? Because it's hard to read him, but I respect that about him. He's got this like quiet, cool confidence to him.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of that way all the time. I mean, I've done everything with Jalen, from events where little kids are asking him silly questions to intense Q&As in front of fan bases where, you know, we're getting questions from fans to, I mean, everything. And so plenty of one-on-ones with him. He is an old soul. He is a very mature guy. He takes his craft extremely seriously. I feel like we will not see an emotional explosion just letting go. You know, that vision of Michael Jordan, you know, holding the NBA championship trophy and crying after his father died. That kind of emotion until he wins the Super Bowl. Because I think it's a really good point you make there. That screensaver is his daily reminder that the task has not been accomplished. And the Eagles have not achieved anything yet until they win the Super Bowl. And so that has been his driving force. After every big game, you know, you kind of get a glimpse every now and then. After the Pittsburgh game, he came into a press conference and said, y'all, is that all what y'all wanted to see? Kind of like getting back at some of the critics. He hears it. He ignores it. He's focused. And he's got to, you know, he understands that this is another chance here. This is what they play for. he lost the Super Bowl and then signed this big contract in the offseason after. And I feel like it was a conflict of kind of emotions for him. The abject depression. When you lose a Super Bowl, you are abjectly depressed. It is devastating. And that's why so many teams have trouble the next season. This is the season, 2 seasons after, we've seen a different Jalen Hurts. He has not been the dynamic playmaker throughout the season on a week-to-week basis. For the Eagles' sake, we hope that is the case, the way he played against Washington in the Super Bowl. But I agree with you. I think he is a bit mysterious. He's very reserved. He's incredibly even-keeled. Not until the Eagles win the Super Bowl. Hopefully, we will see it late February 9th that Jalen Hurts, finally, all of that pent-up kind of coolness just erupts into a volcano of joy, emotion, and just showable, a demonstrative show of emotion from Jalen, which we really rarely see.
And new screensaver as well.
Yeah, the screensaver. Dave, we'll have to get you out of here real quickly on this one, but where can people follow you on Instagram, social media, on and on? Because you do such a great work covering the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm good on Instagram, the Eagles Insider, at the Eagles Insider, and then, of course, on PhiladelphiaEagles.com, and been with the team for 30 years, so I have a really good perspective on this football team. And February 9th, this Super Bowl will be a great game, and the Eagles, to win, have to be as perfect as you can be in a football game.
So, real quick, and I know this will take a 1,000 answers to answer, but Nick Sirianni, how would you describe him in a nutshell? Because to me, he also represents the Philadelphia Eagles in 2025.
Intense, and I get it that people out there don't like him. I mean, he's one of those guys that if he's not on your team, he's really easy not to like. Internally, though, he's loved, and the players clearly play for him. He's been to the playoffs 4 times, his second Super Bowl, winning his percentage in Eagles history, and that includes Andy Reid, among the best 4-year records of any coach in the history of the NFL. Is he over the top sometimes with, the jawing and the faces and all that? Yes, he created a collegiate kind of fun atmosphere here where the guys connect. His 5 core values: connect, compete, football IQ, accountability, fundamentals. And the Eagles have followed those core values to another Super Bowl. So if you are judged by the results, then Nick Sirianni is one of the very, very best. And a Super Bowl victory would, I think, finally vault him into that upper echelon. As recently as October, after Robert Saleh got fired in New York, a headline in USA Today read, who else is on the hot seat? And Nick Sirianni was the first name mentioned. It's incredible how tenuous in some people's eyes his job has been, and yet he just wins and wins and wins.
Must have been written by a Philly fan, Jay.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know what? 2 Super Bowls, you can't complain too much. Or 2 Super Bowl appearances anyway. Thanks so much for joining us, man. We can't let you go without you just giving us your score prediction.
I take the Eagles 30-21.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. We'll see you on Radio Row.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you, man. Great stuff. All right, we will be back. We've had the Chiefs breakdown, Jay, and the Eagles breakdown. We've gotten into the conspiracy and Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, but I have something that I want to say about a team that's not in the Super Bowl. And because you're on this show, I want to ask you about another team that has not been in the Super Bowl in a very long time. All right, on the extra point this week, there's a team that I want to get into that, Jay, I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
I wanted them in the Super Bowl. I'm not a Chiefs hater. I've spent the whole season on this show saying I don't hate the Chiefs. I respect Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelce is one of the best tight ends of all time. Andy Reid, one of the greatest coaches. I'm not the world's biggest Taylor Swift fan, but I really don't care. Like she's not mean. She's not a bad person. She doesn't hurt anybody that I know of. So I don't hate the Chiefs, but the Buffalo Bills and everything they have been through, and the Bills Mafia, and where they play in upstate New York, and they don't have the greatest stadium in the world, and like an average person in America, they would know the Cowboys and the Chiefs and the Raiders. They don't really talk about the Buffalo Bills. They were so close again, Jay, and it just feels so painful and depressing. And we were just talking to Jeff Reinbold and Dave Spadaro and going back and forth about all these great things, right? Being in the Superdome and for the Super Bowl and being in New Orleans, and talkSPORT's going to be there the whole week with Will Gavin, interviewing everybody in the world. But there's a flip side to this, and it is the heartbreak. It's the depression. It's you lose the AFC Championship again to the Chiefs, and you have to go months before you even play a game again. And then you throw in 0-4 in the Super Bowl and 0-4 versus the Chiefs in the playoffs. It's just hard, man. Like, this is sports. This is the other side of sports. And I really, really feel for Josh Allen and Sean McDermott and the Bills Mafia, because they deserve to be there. But I'm sorry, they just weren't good enough when it mattered. Again.
Yeah. Let me pick up on the Bills Mafia, because that's the people that we really should be thinking about.
Yeah.
0-4 in the 90s. They get to 4 Super Bowls in a row. They win 0 Super Bowls. 0 Super Bowls. And then they have a period of time where they're just not good enough. For quite a while, really. They're not good enough. Josh Allen joins, and within 2 or 3 years, they are now a contender. The thing is that the Kansas City Chiefs have just been there at the wrong time for them every single time. And you feel for the Bills Mafia, because you feel like this Buffalo Bills team could be, in this period over the last few years, could be the best NFL team.
They could have their own dynasty. They deserve to break through, just like Lamar Jackson. And you're 100%.
Who deserves to break through? Because, well, I'm agreeing with you.
The winner ultimately does. The winner.
Exactly. The winner deserves to break through. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending which way you look at it, that is the Kansas City Chiefs at the moment. Now, Josh Allen, is he one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL? One-word answer.
Yes.
Exactly. Does he, at some point in his career, deserve to win a Super Bowl? I would assume so.
Yes.
It's just not happened so far. The thing that you can take out of this, if you're part of the Bills Mafia, if you are a Buffalo Bill right now, if you're a player, if you are Josh Allen, is how sweet will it feel when you do eventually get to hoist that
when you feel like
Lombardi?
Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley and Nick Sirianni are going to next week in the Superdome, because I'm going to give you my prediction right here.
Go on. Let's do it.
I don't hate on the Chiefs, but I have said all season the Chiefs are due. Not due for history, not due to become good again or to make Kansas City great again. The Kansas City Chiefs weren't good enough to win the Super Bowl. And I'm not hating on them, Jay, but I'm going to stick to that. I still don't think they're good enough to win the Super Bowl when they play the Eagles. I look at Saquon Barkley. I look at this revenge game. I look at Philly fans who are going to pack. The Superdome will be split red and green. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere, and talkSPORT will be there and have everything covered, calling it live. You will be there covering it with us. But, Jay, I look at this Eagles team. I got the Eagles winning this game. And I love what Dave said. I got the Eagles winning this game 28-27, and it comes down to the last drive, and Jalen Hurts starts crying on the field. And I'm sorry, Travis Kelce doesn't get to propose on the field and bend the knee. Who are you taking?
Well, first of all, before I get into that, I just want to say that over the last however many weeks, over the last however many months, you are correct, Brian. You have said that the Kansas Chiefs aren't good enough, to the point where on this very YouTube channel, in 2 weeks' time, if there is not some sort of compilation of the number of times, of every time Brian has said, Chiefs aren't good enough. It'll have to be Will and I both saying it. Yes. Chiefs aren't good enough to win the Super Bowl.
And there's the thing. They're probably going to win the bleeping Super Bowl, right? Like that's how it's going to go, and everyone will say it's rigged. Mahomes is great. Andy Reid is great. They just have been, sort of off the season.
Do you know what they do? Do you know what? No, sorry, I'm going to interrupt. Do you know what they do? They win.
They win.
They win.
They win.
I don't have anything else to say about it.
Speaking of winners, though, real winners, I want to get into this as well, because this was going viral all over Twitter. Why we were talking about the Chiefs and the Super Bowl and everything at talkSPORT. But there is a team out there, Jay, that you know pretty well that has been good at times and also has been horrible at times. Another head coaching change for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, that's who I'm talking about. And I want to watch this, and I want to hear what you think when we watch new head coach Liam Cohen try to say a word that is very, very familiar to Jaguars fans, and I'm not sure he knows how to say it yet.
Hey guys, this is Liam Cohen, just touched down in Jacksonville. Let's get this thing started off right here. 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
That's really what this is going to come down to, is honesty. I want to surround ourselves with people that are going to be able to tell you hard truths, be able to show you your blind spots, because that's really, like I mentioned, where growth occurs, when you can truly be yourself and be honest with looking in the mirror, knowing that process to get you there was clean and it was right, and the results will speak for themselves.
Duval.
It's not the best Duval that I've
How do you say Duval, Jay?
Well, as somebody who once said it to 100,000 people at Wembley Stadium,
Wow.
then it goes along the... I'm not going to do it loud because you're
Come
going
on, do it.
You're going to clip it. Duval. And to be fair, if he said it with a little bit of confidence...
Duval!
There we go. If he said it with a little bit of confidence, it would have been fine. In fact, I quite like the crowd work. You know,
Yes.
he's a comedian.
He's
on stage
good
with
on social.
crowd work.
He's good with TikTok. You can have Liam Cohen
on my TikTok.
on your TikTok channel.
Yeah. Do you know what though? Duval aside, I know that the last few days, the last week has been eventful in the world of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it's been tough if you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan as well, I think, with Liam Cohen originally.
It's tough if you're Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield.
Exactly. He thought he was going to have his offensive coordinator stay in Tampa Bay, and after the firing of Trent Baalke, the general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars, he decided, no, actually, I'm going to go with the Jags and be their head coach there. A bit of a week. The ends.
A bit of a year.
A bit of a year. Well,
a year.
definitely for sure. But if you have a successful franchise after this, more importantly, if you have a quarterback that is showing the talent that we do know he has.
Trevor Lawrence should be a top 10 quarterback, and
without question,
and a great coach can make him a top 5 quarterback. But Liam Cohen's #1 job, it's not to say Duval right, I don't care. Nick Sirianni.
He can work on it.
Nick Sirianni, ask Eagles fans, Nick Sirianni failed his opening press conference. They wanted him fired on the first day. I remember someone called Adam Gase, who was rolling his eyes on and on. It doesn't matter, Jay, if you win or you lose your press conference or you can say Duval right. Nobody cares. Can he resurrect Trevor Lawrence? Can he make the Jacksonville Jaguars respectable again, competitive again? They have talent on that team. They were in the playoffs not that long ago and had an incredible comfort behind win. Out of all the teams in the NFL, I don't understand why the Jacksonville Jaguars aren't good. They should be good, and something is always holding them back. Maybe he can fix it.
Yeah, and you know what? The Jaguars, they didn't have a good season. They lost a lot. But you're right. The one thing that so many people said is that they have talent.
Yep.
They shouldn't have lost that many games, which sounds ridiculous, really, because they were, for quite a long time, they were one of the favourites to get the #1 pick in the draft, you know, and those teams generally don't have a lot of talent.
Yeah.
But it seems to have been the opposite in this way, or at least we'll find out anyway. Liam Cohen, as a new head coach, he did wonders with Baker Mayfield over the last season.
All right, talkSPORT will have everything covered. Will Gavin, of course, will be back running the show. Jay will be out there. We will have reporters. We'll be out there the entire week. Radio Row. Follow everything at talksport.com, talksport.com US. We have a US NFL Facebook channel. Be sure to follow that right now. We obviously have the YouTube channel. Subscribe, comment, on and on. If you have New Orleans recommendations, feel free to pass them on. I'm sure Jay and I have already done them all. But thank you so much for following, watching, reading everything. Jay, thank you so much for filling in for Will today. And we agreed that the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. The Chiefs aren't good enough to win the Super Bowl.
No, he's going to walk out.
He's going to walk off the set.
Walk out.